Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be based around a Discord server banner, and that banner is the one that you see right in front of you. Now this design looks a little complicated from the get-go, but it's actually fairly simple to pull off. The most complicated bit being just getting these little particles properly laid out in the backgrounds. Other than that, it's really simple. And I would like to point out that you don't have to use anime characters for this banner. It's really easy to just swap out to a different character, for example, from a game or a movie. There's only 3 spots in this that will need to be swapped. That's this left side, this right side, and the main character model. And you can just swap those out to whatever you want, and then the entire theme of the banner will shift away from anime towards whatever else that you're intending it to be. So without really any further ado, let's get right into the tutorial. I'm going to start out by going to File, New, and we want the width and height to be 960 by 540. Let's go ahead and create. I'm going to get rid of the backgrounds, and I'm going to drag over what I'm going to be using just so I have it all in one workspace right from the get-go. So we can close this, don't need that, or that, or that. Now I'm going to go ahead and name each of these layers just to keep it organized. I'll name this the model. I'll move her to the top because that's where her spot is. I'll name this a texture overlay. And this the dot pattern. Now before I get into anything else, I just want to get my character model out of the way so I don't have to worry about reorganizing her again in the future. So Control T, let's do a bit of resizing, so about here, a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay, that should be perfect. Let's make sure she is centered. She is. We're going to go to blending options. We're going to go to drop shadow. We're going to change the color from the black to this red right here, that red being F81616. Blend mode, we're going to change that to normal. Distance, maybe about here. No spread, and no size. Opacity all the way up. And this is essentially acting like a stroke, but a stroke you can't change the distance, so that's why we're using a drop shadow instead. And actually, I'll change the distance a bit more till about here. Maybe move the angle up a tad. Perfect. There we go. I'm going to hit OK, and then we're going to rasterize the layer, because now we're going to come back and add a actual drop shadow to it. So drop shadow, now switch that away from the red back to the black. Back to the blend mode, we're going to put on a multiply, opacity down, distance about here, size about there, maybe put the opacity back up a bit. There we go. And it's kind of hard to tell on a checkerboard backgrounds how it's going to look, so we'll leave it as is for the time being, but essentially we've already wrapped up our actual character model. And let's make that violet. Alright, so next step, I'm going to go ahead and grab the 2 images that I want to be using. I'm going to group them, drag them below the actual model, and we don't actually need that layer there anymore. Let's make these red. We'll name this the base, and we'll actually hide the model for the time being because she's done and she's just going to be in the way for now. So let's hide that one for a second, move this over, resize it a tad. Perfect. And this one, Control T, to move that over, and I believe that I'm going to want it in about that fashion. Let's see. There we go. Let's re-show the model just to see how things are lining up. So that's a bit too far to the right, so we move it back over. Perfect. And this one needs to be moved over a bit as well, because we ideally want both their eyes to be visible. Perfect. So we go ahead and hide the model again. Draw a square over their entire thing with a regular rectangular marquee tool. Do a Control J, and then delete, and anything in excess on the edges has now been removed. Same thing for this one. Control J, and now anything that would have been outside of the actual frame has been deleted. And the reason we did that is because we're now going to come in and add a inner shadow for each one. So right click, go to blending options, we're going to go to inner shadow, and I think these settings are about okay. Let's see if we can adjust it a tad more. There we go. That looks fine to me. 85, 0, 18, 24. Hit OK. Copy layer style. I'm going to hide that real quick, even though we're going to rasterize in just a moment. Paste layer style. Hit OK. Then we're going to go over both of them. Right click, rasterize layer style, and then merge layers. From here, we're going to grab our dot pattern. We're going to drag that down. We're going to grab our texture overlay, and we're going to drag that down. And for the dot pattern, we're going to resize it until it's about all in frame, just like that. Now you can go smaller if you want or larger. It's up to you, but personally I prefer this size, and I will keep it at this size for the tutorial. So Control J and drag it over, so now we have a full dot pattern going all the way across. Control click both of them, then right click and merge layers, and this will be our dot pattern. Okay, so now go over to the dots blending mode and change it to overlay, and then we're going to move that overlay down to 66% opacity. Perfect. And now we're going to add several different blending modes using this thing right down here. First one we're going to add is going to be levels, and this one we want the output level to be 0 and then 201, or just do 200 just to keep it simple. Next we're going to add a brightness / contrast. There we go. This one we want to be at -150, and then -5. Nope, not -50. There we go. Then we're going to add one more, black and white. Perfect. Just make sure to move the dots below. There we go. Clip it all on. Now there is no reason to clip this other than just to keep it a little organized. And now this texture overlay can also be clipped on, and this one's going to be as a overlay, and this one's going to be at 16%. Perfect. And now we can forget about all of this for now, because we're going to make those red lines that you saw earlier. For that, we're going to be using that same exact red that we used to apply a drop shadow stroke onto the model. F8, 1616. Hit OK. Go over to your rectangle tool and drag across until you have one that looks about this size. Okay, and this is about the size that you want it to be at. The width at 1376, though of course you can have it longer, it doesn't really matter. Ideally outside the frame, and the height at about 87. So Control T, and then rotate it till you have about a 45-degree angle, and then move it into the corner. Control J. Let's move it down to about here, then Control J one more time, and then we're going to have it right about there. Cool. So I'm going to take all these, do a Control G, then Control J, Control T, go to the width, and then put a negative, and that will be flipped. And I just drag it over until it's in the same position as it was on the other side. That should be about right. There we go. And in this part, I'm going to review the model again, because I'm going to be having to cut pieces off of the ends of this just so they don't overlap at the top. So I'm going to merge group, and then merge group once again. For the right side, I'm just going to come over here and do a delete. Make sure I get all of it. Left side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to delete everything that's coming up on the right. And now we have perfectly diagonal lines without them intersecting, at least in a visible fashion. They obviously look a little messy behind, but nobody's going to see that. So now we're going to merge these two. We can call this the red base, because this would be in its own group, and I'll show you why in just a moment. This will be called red, and the red we want to have a linear burn on. There we go. Okay, we're going to return back to this red section just a moment to make sure it's this vibrant red color that it was across everything else. But for now, we're going to come back over here. Right underneath the texture overlay, we're going to add a new layer. We're going to grab black. We're going to grab the paint bucket tool, drop it down, and we're going to make this soft light at 41%. Alright, so now we're going to come back to this initial layer base, which I should probably just call it that, base images. I'm going to do a Control J. I'm going to move this up. I'm going to take the black and whites. I'm going to take the dots. I'm going to take this one and that. Control J. I'm going to take it over here and create a clipping mask. And then I'm going to merge all of these layers. Then I'm going to do a Control click for the red base. Then we do Control J. Delete. Move this below the red base. And then voila. The reason that you want to do it this way is because when you're applying the brightness, contrast, the level, and then the future effects are going to be applying, it's going to mess with the actual red linear burn. So we're going to take a snapshot of the way that we want it to look and just hard set that. So whatever happens in the future, the red is still going to be the same vibrant color that we intended it to be in the first place. From here, we can go ahead and close this because we won't be using it again, and actually I'll call this the hard set base. For these two textures, I'm going to go ahead and make these orange, and for these I'm going to make them green. The reason being, for large scale GFX related projects where you have multiple layer styles and particle effects, you can just have them be all that one color, all clipped on, but that becomes really messy really quickly even if you properly name things. So what I like to do when I have multiple layers that are clipped on is I'll group ones that are similar with color, so I can quickly say, oh, green, it's layer style, orange, oh, that's an overlay style, just so I know what's what pretty quickly. So for the particle effects, those, as I mentioned in the past video, I don't really keep particle effects per se as something I would have in a folder. Instead, I go back to past projects of mine and I cannibalize them and just grab bits and pieces, those bits and pieces being particles. So I'm going to pause real quick, grab those, and then I'll show you how we're going to manipulate them. Alright, I went ahead and dropped them in. And the first one you see are the sparkles. All that I did was apply a screen and opacity. The reason that you normally use something along the lines of a screen or one of these here for images or particles that have a black background is to remove that black and allow you to access those particles directly. So I use that right here in the corner, and let me line it up. Whoops. There we go, so you can see a bit of the bottom and a bit of the top. The next one, as you can see, is also on a screen, and this one I'll put right in the corner, just like so, just so it's sticking out a tad and not overwhelming the overall aesthetic of the image. Next one would be these tiny particles. Now it is sort of up to you if you even want to bother using these. At the scale that server banners will be showing up at, nobody's going to notice it. For example, at this size, you're looking at it, you can't see those particles. But if you really want to add those small little details, then it doesn't hurt to do so. And the last one will just be these red sparks. Now the way that you get them is they're going to be this red color. And if you want to adjust that for one of your own projects, for example, you want to do blue instead, all you have to do is just, let me copy layer style real quick, clear the layer style, go to blending options, color overlay, and then I already have a blue set here, so I'm going to hit OK, rasterize layer style, and then paste layer style with the opacity, and now you can see that they are blue. And if you're working on a blue project, then it's perfectly set up for you and ready to go. Now this whole right side is wrapped up, but this left side has nothing. So we don't have to bother reorganizing everything. We can just highlight all of this, do Control J. Let me reclip that. I'm holding Alt while I click between the layers, and it clips it. And we do Control T with everything still highlighted. Go to Width, drop a negative, check mark, and just drag that over, and it's already all lined up. So let me go back to these particles and let's make them purple. And now we're on to our final step, and that's going to be the text. So we'll name this the text area. Let's make this, say, blue. We're going to be using Tokyo font, of course. Make sure the font is white. And I'll put TSU on this side and KEI on the other side. Now, if you have a server with a longer name, it probably won't work as well. Now, what you could do is, for example, put TSU up here and then KEI underneath. It's definitely doable, but probably not the ideal look. So we're going to go blending options. We're going to do drop shadow. Let's actually copy that real quick because that'll make it easier for the future. Copy. Back to the blending options. Drop shadow. Make this the same red as before. F81616. Blend mode normal. Opacity max. Size 0. Spread 0. And distance about here. And make sure you're at 180 degrees. Distance about there is good. Let's paste that up there. That's the one from before. And then we can copy that red over to the KEI. Perfect. And now we come back to the actual folder style, which is going to affect everything inside the folder. And we're going to go to the drop shadow. We're going to maybe put the distance up a bit farther. Opacity up a tad. Size down. Nope. Actually move the distance back. And there. Wait, I almost forgot. Go back to your base. Go to Filter, Blur Gallery, Field Blur, and put 3 pixels on that. Almost forgot that bit. There. Perfect. So that is the completed project. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have everything available for you to download, of course. The particles will only be accessible through this actual file. You're not going to be able to download them separately, but the character model as well as the 2 images, I'll have that in the folder. Though it's not really necessary if you're planning to recreate this using different stuff. I'll have another video popping up on screen for another server banner that I think would be pretty fun to make. And that's it. Have a great day.